All right. Good morning or afternoon, depending on your location, everyone. I am so happy to see you today. It is August 18th, so it is time for our chapter leadership webinar. Before we get into that, I have a couple of housekeeping things I would like to go over with everyone. First and foremost, Girls in Aviation Day. Y'all have absolutely blown away every expectation that we had. So I am so excited to announce that at the moment we have over 150 events internationally. Registrants are through the roof for attendees that you expect there at your events, and we are looking at close to almost a third more than what we had forecasted and what we were expecting. So we are so excited and so very proud of all of you. So a couple of things that I need to make sure that you absolutely 100% remember and or know. First things first, on your activity kit shipments, domestic shipments for events that are on September 23rd or if any events that is after September 23rd, shipping for that is going to begin on September 1st, on or around September 1st. So as we start getting those shipments together and they're going out to you, we will make sure that you have all of the order information, tracking information, so that you know where your activity kits are. The second is for international shipping, though that date is earlier. So the shipping date on that, our target date is August 21st, at the latest August 28th, to try to squeak in and make sure that things get into you as planned. And again, same thing, you're going to receive your order information as well as your tracking numbers so that you have those things at your fingertips. Demographics and photos are going to be due back to us. Those are the two things that have to be returned back to us here at headquarters. Demographics sometimes is actually kind of pulls into what Joe's going to be talking about today with our DE&I and making sure that we have some of that information. Demographics is very important to us. We know that we have some parents or guardians that are a little hesitant to fill that out. Please make sure that they know, A, that is completely anonymous information. It all gets put into one spreadsheet. And then that information is actually absolutely imperative to the Women in Aviation International Organization and the Girls in Aviation Day events that we're hosting year after year, because we take that information, put it together, and we're able to present that both to our donors and our members so that we're proving that the mission that we have told them that we are going to provide with this Girls in Aviation Day event, that we're actually meeting that and we're exceeding that. And our target goals of getting into underserved communities and really changing the demographics that are in aviation and aerospace, that we are making an impact in that area. So, you know, utilize maybe some form of that little speech that I just gave you there, but it is very, very important that we have that information. Photos also. Pick your 10 favorites. I know it's going to be really, really hard, but with over 150 events, that's going to be a whole lot of photos for Annie and I to be going through to make sure what's going in the magazines and what we're highlighting in our videos. So 10 of your favorites. There is a link on all of your information, your event host kit, all of those things that we have sent out to you for your materials for the event. Everything is there to put those pictures in the Dropbox, put the demographic in the Dropbox so that Annie and I have that information. Last month's webinar was absolutely fabulous. I'm so thankful for those that were able to join us. If you weren't able to, last month was on conflict management. And I think we had some really good responses on conflict management and communication, the way that we pull in information and the way that we are putting out information. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, go to our YouTube channel, the Women in Aviation YouTube channel. All of our webinars are stored there, and you can take a look at anything that we've done in the past. Lastly, I want to talk about the WAI Chapter Leaders Private Group on Facebook. Absolutely fantastic participation from everyone. I'm so excited. This platform is finally becoming what I was hoping it was going to become, which is a place where people are sharing ideas and giving one another all of this information that, you know, here's what I use. We don't have to recreate the wheel as we're going through our chapter management or our Girls in Aviation Day management. We have people, particularly for our new chapters, that are out looking for this information. And it's so fantastic, the collaboration that I'm seeing on that platform. Very, very, very excited and very proud of everything you do for your chapters, for Women in Aviation International, and for each other. So without further ado, I have a special guest here with us today. I would like to introduce Joanne, or Jo Damato. She's a certified aviation manager and senior vice president in education, training, and workforce development for the National Business Aviation Association, where she has been employed since 2001. Her responsibilities include leading the team for all of NBAA's professional development activities, including student outreach and diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, reflecting NBAA's emphasis on workforce development through attraction and retention. Jo graduated from FIT, or the Florida Institute of Technology, with a bachelor's in aviation management or flight operations specialization, and obtained her master's of aeronautical science degree from Embry-Riddle. She holds single and multi-engine land instrument ratings, a commercial pilot certificate, and is a current certified flight instructor, which I know you do every 2 years, right, Jo? Just to keep on track. She's been featured on the cover of our very own Aviation for Women magazine, and was a longtime columnist for the publication. In 2020, she was appointed to the DOT Youth Access to American Jobs and Aviation Task Force. Also in 2020, she was recognized by Florida Tech with the inaugural Alumna Legacy WISE Award, recognizing women inspiring success and excellence. In 2022, she began serving as a board trustee with the Aviation Accreditation Board International, or the AABI, and she's currently working on her certification as a leadership coach, specializing in helping emerging leaders in aviation navigate their career paths. So this is a perfect place for her to be with us. Jo lives in South New Jersey with Bertie, her airline pilot husband, and their 2 sons, Dean and Luke, where she enjoys distance running, cheering for the Phillies, and spending time with her family. So without further ado, thank you so much, Jo, for being with us. You're the perfect person to help us with this topic, which is sometimes confusing. Where do I go? How do I do it? And how do we start? How do we recognize these things? So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to spend time with all of you and your chapter leaders. It's a real honor for me. A longtime member of Women in Aviation, card carrying since the year 2000, and very proud of it. I've been able to be a part of a number of chapters in different places I've lived, and I know the value chapters can have regionally, members engaging with each other, the impact they can have on the community, and the responsibility we have as chapter members and volunteers to, you and I were talking about this earlier, to shepherding the next generation into aviation, and not only attracting them, but how do we keep them? How do we get them to stay? And a lot of that comes to our skills as leaders, as those who embrace inclusion and who create spaces where all feel welcome. And so I think we're going to explore a number of things today. I've kind of put a twist on the topic, and especially because I know you have Girls in Aviation Day coming up. And with that in mind, these are very heavy member-focused events. They are going to be volunteer-driven. You did the topic last month, conflict resolution. Tensions get high when we're trying to produce something, especially for a bunch of aviation people who, you and I, maybe a few others, we tend to be type A, and we want everything to be perfect. And with that, sometimes we lose the best part of ourselves. And we know that we typically do create inclusive atmospheres and environments, and we know the right ways to lead. But when pressure gets high, sometimes we forget some of those things. So I thought we would just kind of explore in that vein. Happy to pause for questions or comments as we go, but I'm really excited to be able to engage with all of you today. So thanks again. And you're such a wonderful advocate for women in aviation. I'm so glad that you're on the other side of the screen here with me today.
Well, thank you so much. So just for everyone who is attending today, we have a little bit of a PowerPoint sharing thing. So I'm going to lead, or I'm going to have control of the PowerPoint, and Jo's going to tell me where she needs me to go. So we are going to work together to make sure that this is a really, really great presentation for y'all.
Yeah, you'll even think we practiced it by the time we're done. So with that, Jessie, if you would go to the slideshow and open it up for me, please. I know that we're talking about respect today and how that does influence chapter engagement. So that's where we're going to focus. If you want to go to the next slide, Jessie already went through my bio, so we certainly don't have to do that again. But I just wanted to drive home the point that we are all so much more alike than we are different, and we wear a number of hats every day. I am not just Jo Damato, NBAA. Oh, you can go to the next slide, Jessie. That's okay. I'm not just Jo Damato, NBAA. Jessie is not just Jessie, WAI, but we wear all these different hats throughout the day, whether it's being a mom, being a coworker, being a friend, a neighbor, being an athlete, being an advocate. And so you can't just check all of those at the door when you put your leader hat on, but a big part of what we're doing as leaders and with DEI is we're bringing our whole selves with us all the time. We don't have to change personas just to fit the atmosphere that we're in. And as leaders, it's our responsibility for people to feel like they can bring their entire selves to the experience and that they don't have to change who they are. So our objectives for today as leaders, you're all chapter leaders, we will remind ourselves to find respect when we recruit, respect when we recognize, and respect when we retain. So those are the important messages that I want to make sure we stay on theme with today. If we look at the next slide, I thought it was very important for us to have you reflect on your chapter's mission. And so I've got that on the next slide. I think we might have, there we go, a little lag, but that's the Zoom. That's not Jessie. So I know that Jessie knows Women in Aviation's mission, but if I asked any of you to state Women in Aviation's mission, you'd probably come pretty close to this. But as association people, we are trained to be able to have this roll off our tongues. You should always have your association's mission statement ready to go. So Women in Aviation, what is their mission? Dedicated to the encouragement and advancement of women in all aviation career fields and interests. Do you know your chapter mission? Now, your chapter mission is likely identical to Women in Aviation's mission on a more regionally focused or locally focused level. But the point that I wanted to make is if you don't understand your chapter's mission as a leader, it's going to be critical that you need to understand your members may not also know what your chapter mission is. And so you have to have those two things working together. Jessie, I think I see you talking. Are you trying to get my attention? Can you?
No, I am so sorry. I had someone call and I said, I'm so sorry. I have to call you back later.
That's totally fine.
My
I was worried that maybe you couldn't hear me. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't having sound issues. Awesome.
Nope, my apologies.
Oh gosh, no worries. So please, if you can't have your chapter's mission or Women in Aviation's mission, if it's the exact same one, roll off your tongue as the leader of a chapter, I just encourage you to spend some time with that with your leadership team and make sure that you all do agree and understand what your chapter mission is, because it's so important to get your members to engage and surround you in support of that mission. So it's a little bit of a homework assignment, but it's important to set up the rest of what we're going to talk about today. So I hope you all took that little note. And we can go on to the next slide. And this is where I mentioned at the beginning, in some places, I'm going to do a little interchange here with the word volunteer and the word member. When someone joins your chapter, clearly they're a chapter member. They may not be ready to sign up for a volunteer role right away. So in this instance, I'm just going to ask that you indulge me and you think about all of your members being mobilized to be volunteers. And our best example that we're also excited about, and Jessie shared some great stats for next month, is Girls in Aviation Day. You're all going to be in volunteer mode, regardless of whether you're the leader, You're a doer, you're an organizer, you're a supporter. And so I want you to think about what is the definition of your volunteers, because they're going to be critical to your success. So another little homework item, if you want to take it, is to brainstorm about what the definition is of a chapter volunteer or a Girls in Aviation Day volunteer. But I offer to you the American Red Cross definition, because I think that I've talked to some other individuals in the association world, and we've just really been complimentary of the way that they have encapsulated volunteerism in a sentence. I won't read the entire thing, but clearly you're appealing to the individual. They are not doing this as part of their paid job. Hopefully they're doing it because they want to. They're not expecting something in return. They're motivated for some reason, and hopefully it's for a wonderful reason, such as helping advance women in their aviation interests. And they want to share what the resource they have. And the most important resource any of us have to share at any time is our time. And it's also a finite resource. We can't make more of it. We only have so much time to give. And so when you think of your volunteers who had a choice, their choice may have been to volunteer to lead a Girl Scout troop. Their choice may have been to coach a softball team. Their choice may have been to teach a religious education class. There's a number of ways people can choose to spend their volunteer time. But when they've selected you to give that little bit of free time we all know we have to volunteering for you, we know that you want to recognize that and you want to take advantage of that in the right way. And that does, again, tie into creating an inclusive, welcoming environment where someone feels their contributions can be meaningful. Because the easiest thing they can do is pick up their time and go and take it somewhere else. And we don't want that to happen to you. Now, you're a leader and you set the tone. I have some follow-on slides that are going to talk about that as well. But on this one particularly, it's emphasizing things you already know. And I do want to be clear. I don't think I'm telling you anything that you don't know. I don't think I'm telling Jessie anything she doesn't know. But sometimes we just need to spend some time sitting in some of the obvious and do a little self-reflection and make sure that we're really showing ourselves the mirror and understanding our self-awareness. And that sometimes leaders suffer at self-awareness because we're so busy in trying to get things done and set our goals. We don't always leave the time to reflect. So I hope you're using this time to reflect. But as leaders, you have responsibilities. You create the environment. You create the environment where your members feel there's a trust with you and them and with each other. You create an environment where they see respect demonstrated between you and them, and you encourage it to be demonstrated with each other. When we talk about our volunteers, it's easy to talk about our volunteers being the obvious. What's the name of the association? Women in Aviation. And so you think, okay, well, our volunteers, if they are not a woman in aviation, let me figure out how I'm going to prioritize them. Let me figure out where they fall in the landscape of that mutual trust and respect. I'm only going to talk to them and anyone else as part of the supporting cast. Well, that's not right. We have so many allies and advocates. The message of Women in Aviation, I know, is all are welcome. And that's an important part of creating an inclusive environment too. My husband, he has been a card-carrying member of Women in Aviation through the years. He's accompanied me to conferences many times. He supported me as I've been speaking on a panel. My sons, I don't have little girls, I have boys. They have volunteered side by side with me at Girls in Aviation Day for a number of years. They've earned more praise than I have at how much elbow grease they've wanted to put into things and perfectionism. There's room for everybody. And so when I talk about mutual trust and respect for each other, I just want to remind everyone, the association as Women in Aviation, the mission is focused on helping bolster and lift them up in all aspects of aviation. But everyone can be an ally and an advocate. And there is no pecking order or a priority list there. So one of those things, again, I know you already know, this is just part of that self-awareness checklist. Let's make sure we remind ourselves that we're talking to the whole room and not just certain people in the room. Those are the behaviors that we can identify for those healthy member relationships. A couple of things on this one. I'm sure you all have determined the best way to communicate with your members, but as part of creating inclusion, it's also understanding that there's not a one size fits all. Not everyone has their email open all the time and is waiting for you to send them the next member missive that might let them know all of the details or paragraphs they have to go through. Some might respond really well to text. Some might like to use WhatsApp or the Facebook group that Jessie mentioned. So keep in mind that an inclusive environment is not just for in-person, but how you're creating that virtual interaction with your members. And are you meeting them where they are? And are you thinking about different ways that they can absorb that inclusive spirit of your chapter and feel like they are finding a place where they understand the mission, they understand the value they can have to it and the contributions they can make, and they're not going and hunting for that information. And then finally, those identifying guidelines to empower your members. It follows really closely with communication, but it's also important for us to know people don't just want to, sit in folding chairs, staring at the stage and just have you talk at them. They want to feel empowered. They joined because they want to make a difference. So what are ways you can, and again, I'll remind us, a lot of us are type A in aviation. What are some of the ways you can let go of the controls? For you flight instructors out there, we had to empower our flight students pretty quickly and when they were ready, but the old sitting on your hands because we've got to make sure they do this landing and we're not going to be tempted to take the controls. The same thing works here. We want to empower our members, not have them feel like we're trying to be, well, nobody actually flies like this. You might think I don't get it, but we want to make sure that they know we have a gentle touch and that we're here to support and give them lift, but not necessarily take over. So on to the next slide. I mentioned earlier, a big theme here is leaders set the tone. You are all super volunteers. You have chosen or been voluntold, I'm not sure which, to take on the role of chapter leader. It can be difficult being the person who has to make the decisions, to find maybe that you can't connect with a peer you can bounce things off of. So I was thrilled to hear Jessie mention that there is a private Facebook group for chapter leaders to share best practices, share ideas, and lean on each other, because you do set the tone, and it can be lonely sometimes in those leadership roles. And none of us are going to get straight A's in this list of things at all times. We're human, and as I said, we're bringing our whole selves to our volunteerism, to our chapter leadership. And that might mean you're coming from a really bad day right into a chapter meeting. That might mean you're coming from a really stressful situation at work or with a family member into a chapter situation. So we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for everybody to do the best they can. But the things that are really important for you as chapter leaders that are going to keep that inclusive environment are the things on this list. And of course, the very first one is to embrace diversity. What makes us wonderful is what makes us different. We can get to a better place with diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, diversity in our experience. There's age that plays a big part in a lot of the aviation dynamics. We hear that talked about often. If I'm going to use the pilot analogy, we could talk about, in the 120 world, what the retirement age is and what the earliest age is that you can sit right seat to fly an airliner. At the same time, a lot of times in aviation, we talk about flight time as a qualifier and a lower time pilot versus a higher time pilot. And sometimes we even judge people on ratings. How often do we hear someone say, well, I'm just a student pilot. I'm just a private pilot. None of us should, if we can, it would be great if we could all strike that word just from our self-talk and for how we put ourselves out to others. What makes us beautiful is what makes us diverse. And nobody is just anything. They're bringing their whole selves, and we need to embrace that, because we can find a way to make that, make the chapter stronger and have everyone have the best experience they can have. We value the personalities. And these are even the difficult personalities. I know we can all think of probably very quickly someone that we might say, oh, they are difficult to work with. And there are truly those people who are difficult to work with, but there's also those people who sometimes get us to a better place because they might dissent every now and again. They might keep a bunch of easy yeses. We all agree with that. Well, wait a minute. Can we talk about this a little bit longer? Or I want to bring up just one different idea. We can get to a better place if we're willing to take that pause and to have that diversity of thought and the personalities that sometimes everybody's like, oh, what are they going to say? But if you really take the time to listen to what they're saying, it could get you to a better place. And that's how you build a community. I mean, those are the things that are going to make you successful. Your chapters are all individual communities, as is Women in Aviation, the association. It's a community, and we're all privileged to be a part of it, but we're also excited and enthusiastic to be a part of it. So we want to take our little communities, our chapter communities, and have them be part of this beautiful ecosystem. And we can do that by setting this tone. On some future slides, I'm going to talk about how we can express appreciation. That's really important. And I think we're all really good at strengthening individuality. Again, maybe sometimes in aviation, our egos are a little bigger than in some other professions. And so we're probably really strong at our own individuality. How often do we pause to recognize the strength in others? And then managing adversity. I know that you spent a lot of time talking about some of those things on your last webinar, but how you as a leader react to adverse situations, you're role modeling. And it's all part of setting the tone as well and getting your chapter to a better place, even if you're dealing with a difficult situation. Again, you're not going to run the card on this and feel like you've got 6 out of 6 every day. But if you can do your best and keep these in mind, you're probably going to be more successful than not because you're keeping these things front of mind. You can go on to the next one, Jesse. Thanks. Very important we talk about this. In addition to your responsibilities and setting the tone, it's the responsibility for you to create the safe space. Not one human should spend time in your chapter meeting or chapter event and feel that it is not a safe space for them to be who they are, to share their personality, to bring their whole self into the meeting or event, to share in a way that they know it's not going to leave the room if they have a sensitive situation. Maybe in aviation, sometimes the easiest analogy is, maybe a bunch of you saw a landing that, had a few touchdowns more than were necessary, right? You got to get a few for a price of one. And people might joke about that, but, talking about that person in a way that you're, making fun of their landing or quarterbacking their landing versus giving them a space where you could say, I saw your landing when you came into the chapter meeting tonight. I'm a CFI. I was wondering if maybe, you were curious if you were looking for any tips, if you want to, maybe have me go up in the pattern with you. Was there, what were the winds like today? Just different things. You could actually offer them some constructive feedback and an offer to help instead of creating a space where now they're self-conscious because everybody saw not their best landing. And probably 9 times out of 10, you would have seen their best of the best. You want to foster that inclusion. You have to, we talked earlier about establishing trust and the confidentiality. A lot of times, especially in in-person places, I know we're not anywhere anymore where there's not a camera or a microphone. And a lot of times that can be unfortunate. But when you can ensure confidentiality, it's really important that you protect that. And that if your members are sharing, if you're talking about a sensitive situation, if someone asks you for a one-on-one, part of your responsibility as a leader is to make sure that conversation stays between you and that individual or that group, and it doesn't become news for everybody else. If you're not demonstrating this, your members will not demonstrate this. They're going to mirror what they see. And all 4 of these things are extremely important to that inclusive environment where people are going to want to spend their valuable time. Again, nothing you don't know, but very important that we talk about that. On to the next one, please, Jesse. And I'm not going to talk about all these bullet points, but I think one of the most important ones to me, and that has guided my career, I know Jessie well enough to, I think, speak for her and say it's a big part of who she is. establishing your credibility. And then also with your credibility, protecting your reputation. Once you lose your reputation, it's very hard to get it back. And so you have this responsibility as a leader you're probably put in that position because you have the credibility. And now you want to stay in that position and be able to help others, because your reputation can speak for itself, because people can see how committed you are to this leadership path you've selected or been voluntold asked to do. You want to be the type of leader who is accessible. You want to be solutions-based and not necessarily dictate everything that's going to happen. And so when you think about how you can empower your members, and I know we talked about this on an earlier slide, it's so important. And when I was preparing for this webinar, I thought to myself, in the 30 years I have been in aviation as an aviation professional, again, I can probably recall pretty quickly the best boss I've ever had, and maybe the boss I've worked with who I wished would have had a different touch with some things. I've thought about myself as a boss and some of the moments I'm most proud of, and some of the places I wish I would have shown up differently for the people that were reporting to me. And we can learn both from those great examples, and we can also learn from the constructive examples about who we want to be and who we do not want to be like. And I think if we can keep some of our professional experiences and help them shape who we are as leaders, then we're going to recognize in these things that we're talking about how we can model that and try our best. And all of this goes towards that respect that as humans we crave. And as leaders, we want to make sure that we can offer. And when you can have that mutual respect, you can have people who want to bring their authentic selves, who know it's okay to be the individuals that they are, who feel that your chapter leads with diversity and diversity of thought that creates this inclusive environment. And it's so important. And it reflects so well on Women in Aviation, the organization, because they model this from the top down. And you're all the branches of Women in Aviation all around the world. So you have the chance to model this, reflect it, and also inspire, back up the national organization. It's a really beautiful ecosystem you're a part of. We can go on to the next slide. Okay. We're almost at what I think is the fun stuff. We're going to talk about recognition also. I think we've probably talked about a lot of these things, but just remember, your members or your volunteers, as you're thinking about events like Girls in Aviation Day, you cannot measure the value of them. This is where you get your strength. They are your muscles. They are your muscles. This is where you make the changes that probably when you started as leaders, or when you started as a chapter member and ascended to a leadership position, I'm sure you had ideas. If only we did this, if only we did that. If I were in charge, I would try to drive us in this way. This is your chance, but to do it with all of your volunteers and your members for that change. They're giving you time, and you can't put a number, a dollar sign on that, except that you're not paying for this labor. They're giving it to you. They want to give you their ideas. They want to give you their experiences. They want to give you their resources. And you can't do it without them. I know you know this, but I've got to tell you, I guess there is a joke in volunteer. You can't fire a volunteer. True, you can't. You want to find the best use of their skill set. Not everybody matches the exact vision you have for them, but they're not a luxury. They're a necessity. Women in aviation cannot be successful without their members and volunteers. The National Business Aviation Association, we cannot be successful without our members and volunteers. Pick the name of the organization. They are nothing without their members and volunteers. You cannot do it with just the staff. And so remember, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And there should be a role for everybody who raises their hand and says, I want to be a member, I want to volunteer, tell me how. So please, when you can, remember that value. If you have to look at your volunteers with the price tag sign over all of their heads, and picture it that way, remember that it's a priceless, and that you should value that at all times. Next slide, please. Just want to make sure I do a time check here. Okay, so your member characteristics. This is important because we're going to talk about why members come to your chapters and why they leave. And DEI is a large part of this. What makes your members individuals? We already talked a lot about the fact that they bring different perspectives. They bring their own networks. Their networks can help increase your reach. They bring resources you may not have even thought about. They bring skill sets you may not have. Let's talk about when you chartered your chapter, who felt like doing all of the 501c3 paperwork? Who felt like understanding how to file those documents or felt overwhelmed because that's just not a skill set that you had? I have been in that position before. I did not enjoy it. What I loved was there was usually somebody else in the charter group or that somebody knew who said, I want to help you with that. And I'm really good at that. Great. That's for you then. Thank you so much. So they can bring you different resources and skills. And that's terrific because we are definitely not experts in everything, far from it. Partnerships with other organizations. I am very proud of the Capital Region chapter in the Washington, D.C. area. They have been partnering with our young professionals at NBAA in the DC area. And so they've had a chance to find synergy with each other, to co-host some events. Maybe you wouldn't think of those two organizations finding something that they would be able to deliver in a local sense together, but they found it very naturally and they're excited about their next opportunity. So think about partnerships with other organizations and how you can leverage that. And then again, we can't ever underscore the gift of time they're giving you. So this is what they bring to you, but you've got to attract them and you've got to retain them. So we'll go to the next slide and just talk quickly about why they join. And I've put the source down there in the margin notes, but the main reason is they have a desire to help and improve. I hope this sounds like you. I hope it sounds like your members. I know when I decide to join something and to give my time to something, my motivation is I want to help. I want to improve. What can I do? Tell me what I can do. Hopefully, we all can say we're not doing it for recognition. It's certainly very nice to be recognized. Having that as the reason why you're there, I would say that's probably the wrong motivation. But if you can understand that most of your members are there because they have a desire to help and improve, you don't want to squander that. You want to capitalize on that. What do they gain from it? I already told you all the things you're gaining from them. That was on the previous slide. What does a member bring to a chapter? What are they hoping to get from it? And it could be personal. I've listed a few things, and it could be professional. And that is certainly welcome also, especially if their volunteerism in aviation ties to they're also having a career in aviation. Then certainly they can have both personal and professional motivation. But look at some of the things I highlighted, personal benefits. They're looking to gain new perspectives. That's diversity of thought. They are looking to be included. They're looking for a sense of belonging. I was the female teenage flight student. I went to a Catholic school down the road. I wasn't able to drive myself to flight lessons. I didn't have a driver's license yet. New Jersey, you have to be 17 to get one. My mom would pick me up at school in my uniform and get me to the airport in time to do one of my lessons. I could not find another teenage girl in my county who was learning to fly at the same time as I. I didn't know I was missing, but when I got to college and I met a few more female pilots, that was amazing. When I found out there was an organization dedicated to women in aviation, I was ecstatic. And when I go to the conference every year, or when I go to a Girls in Aviation Day or a chapter event, that sense of belonging, that buzz I feel all day long and that stays with me afterwards, there is no better feeling, especially knowing that I used to be a single. And now there's this entire rich group of people. And so you want to appeal to all of those benefits that probably cause someone to say, I want to join. And again, we are not just talking about women in aviation. We're talking about all of the allies and advocates and those who see themselves as women in aviation. We want them to know there is a place for them here. And so that inclusion and sense of belonging, it's just not for the 16-year-old teenager who can't find other teenage females, but for anyone who can give them that sense of inclusion and belonging. So that's why members join. On the next slide, let's talk about why members leave. And you know what? I'll go back to the analogy I used earlier. Why do people leave jobs? They always say you don't leave a job, you probably leave a bad boss or a bad manager or bad leadership. Why do members leave? It could be the same thing. They may sign up for a bunch of things or think that they're getting involved in something and see lack of follow through and see, nothing ever happens. We talk about it all the time. We don't actually do anything. They might see tension because they don't see leadership managing the adversity. They don't see conflict resolution. They don't feel like there's a place for other perspectives. They don't have diversity of thought. Fine. You know what? It looked like the Girl Scouts troop that I had the chance to lead was a better gig for me. I'm going to take my time and pick it up and go over there. Some people, they might want to be recognized. Now, this is different than their motivation for joining is for recognition. This could be that volunteer who works tirelessly for you. It feels like they do everything. They can wear more hats. But does anybody ever recognize that and thank them? At some point, even if recognition is not their goal, they might just be so weary at feeling unseen that might be the reason for them to exit. And I promise you, you'll feel that pain when they leave. So finding some ways to engage them while they're with you will go a long way and get them some help. So it's not always the same person that's taking on a lot of the responsibility. Inclusion. They're going to leave if they never felt like they belonged in the first place. So paying your dues and sitting in the back row of a chapter meeting and no one welcoming you, no one engaging you, no one trying to get to know you, thanking you for coming. All of those things just mean that you were a check writing member, invisible. It's that inclusion that's so important. When they feel welcome, they're going to want to stay. And guess what? When they come to their second meeting, they're going to want to welcome somebody else. They're going to want to share that good feeling. And that is, that final thing. If it's not a positive experience for them, then why would you keep going? Why would they keep going? Why would they want to contribute their time or their resources? They're going to find something else. So it's so important that not just you as a leader, but that all of your members model this. You want to be a group of like-minded or people like-minded around the same mission. So if you can do that, that's inclusion and that's belonging. And if you can't do that, well, then the mission isn't going to matter because you're not getting them to embrace that in a way that they feel like they have a sense of belonging. On to the next one, please. This is my favorite one. I love this. So people shouldn't join because they want to be recognized. People will leave if they feel like they're not recognized. Everyone does love to be thanked. Think about it. How many times have we called customer service and said a complaint? How many times have we filled out a hotel or an airline survey and it's been after a bad experience and you think, I can't wait to fill out that survey. I have a bunch of things to say. How many people take the time to share when they had a great flight, when they had a great hotel stay, when they had a great experience? How does it make you feel to fill out one of those surveys? I did one recently. We stayed at a hotel last month on family vacation, and a staff member went out of his way 2 separate times in the less than 18 hours we were on property. And my husband said, when we get that survey, we really have to call out this person's name. And by the time I got to my desk on Monday after vacation, I had that survey. I filled it out. I named him in person. The hotel emailed me back. And they said, it was so special that you called out X by his name. We printed this out. We hung this up in our employee lounge. We let him know that he was recognized. And it was recent enough from our visit that he remembered us and what we were describing and how he had gone over and above. And so this is how your recognition can be important. It should be sincere. So it's straightforward. It's immediate. Don't have your thank you notes getting sent out 6 or 7 months after the fact. Thank them right away. Numerous. You can never thank somebody too much. You just can't. You can't. Be creative. Not everybody likes to be thanked in the same way. In the same way that not everybody likes to drink coffee, not everybody wants the $5 Starbucks thank you card. Think about different ways that people might want to be thanked. It should be explicit, specific, relevant, and evident. But, and this is a part of inclusion, Not everybody wants to be recognized in the same way. Think about when you have a coworker or a family member, you might be the person who wants everybody to make it a big deal about your birthday, or you might want to be the person who you hope nobody knows it's your birthday all day, because the worst thing in the world would be if a cake suddenly comes out and people are going to sing in front of you. Thanking somebody can be done in the same way. Some people will feel so much with a private thank you that is sincere, that is done off to the side or via phone call, and not everybody in the chapter needs to know about it. And some people, based on their personality, they might really welcome, and the Oscar for Girls in Aviation Day announcer goes to, and you're going to make a big splash about it. So when you can make it personal and adapt to that person, you're also showing that inclusion is important to you and recognizing the individual and what makes them different, and not feeling like it's a one size fits all. But recognition can be so much fun. You can have so much fun with it. You can do all of it for free. There is no need to do the $5 here or there, but that creativity and that sincerity and that making it personal and recognize the individual, it can make such a difference. On to the next one. I know we're getting ready to wrap up here. Make it continuous. I said you can never thank somebody too often, but this is part of that respect. So it takes us all the way back to the theme and the title of this webinar. When you recognize somebody, you're showing that you value the individual. When you show you value the individual, you're showing that you respect them. You're creating that mutual trust and respect. You're recognizing that they could take their time and take it somewhere else. They could take their resources and take it somewhere else, but you see them and you recognize they've decided to spend it with you. It does give value to you. This is where you set yourself apart as a leader. You set yourself apart as the good boss that's memorable for good reasons versus the boss who's memorable for the sticky reasons that people don't want to repeat. It shows that positive message that you're pushing forward. And I will tell you, a member who feels seen, satisfied, connected, valued, they stick around, they raise their hand, they want to roll up their sleeves. They're going to be the ones who relieve you when you're hoping that you're not going to be leader forever, but that there is a succession plan and your chapter will thrive. And that is why we're tying respect, chapter leadership, DEI, these things together. You cannot have one without the other. I think we might have one or two more slides, but I think we're on the last slide. So this one you'll recognize from earlier. It also just seemed like the perfect one to end on. This is that, report card I talked to you about. It would be great if as leaders we could get straight A's in all of these categories. But as I reminded you, you're always bringing your whole self to your leadership. You're not always going to be able to be hitting the mark on all of these things. But when you go out there and you try your best, when you recognize that life happens, that you're a human, you're interacting with other humans who have so many other things going on, good stress, bad stress, illnesses, difficulty, financial, work, kids, all of the things that go into making us the individual humans that we are. When we can go out there and try to demonstrate these characteristics to each other, it makes us better to each other. It would take someone who may have walked into your chapter meeting feeling like the day couldn't get any worse. And it's an obligation that they're showing up. And by the time they leave, having received some of the things on this list that you've put out there to them, you've bolstered them in a way that they may pass that on. And your chapter has benefits far, far outside what you'll ever know, because you were able to make a difference for that individual. And so I think that's the message I will leave you with is when we take all of this apart from everything, we're all individuals. We're all doing the best that we can. What brings us together in this case is our passion and enthusiasm for the mission of women in aviation. And we should be able to do that as individuals who are part of a community where we feel like we belong and can make a difference together. I hope these things resonated with you. I hope that you'll take some time to reflect on this. I would love to hear from you. If you have a reflection you want to share, if I can help you think about how your chapter mission aligns with the Women in Aviation mission, if you want to talk about some recognition, ideas, some ways to be sincere, I just invite you to please stay in touch or connect with me. But again, it's been a privilege, and I'm just so excited about this organization, the chapters, the volunteerism, and then also Girls in Aviation Day, which is where all of us have met as members, have our best opportunity to get this next generation ready to come in. We're going to recruit them. We're going to recognize them. We're going to retain them. And they're going to see that respect leads all of that. Jesse, I'll go back over to you. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Trying to get all of the things turned off and on and talk at the same time. You know, it's all an interesting day with Jesse on Zoom. Thank you so much for that. I think there were so many important points there. You know, making sure that you are staying true to yourself while allowing others to be their true selves in whatever environment that you are putting them in. Talking about how Women in Aviation International is this inclusive organization that has everyone. You know, I think that's one of the surprising when I'm talking to just the general public that have never heard of us before. I try to tell them, you know, we're here for the enthusiast and the astronaut and everyone in between. You know, we have our gentlemen allies and advocates. We have a strong community of women. We are welcoming to every single group that you can imagine. And I wanted to point out, you had mentioned, you know, we are humans leading organizations and we're doing the best we can. Again, those type A personalities, we tend to beat ourselves up when we goof up. And, you know, it's the most horrible thing in the world. And we really hold on to that. But I want people to remember that we really, really are just, everyone is here for that volunteerism role. We are trying to make a difference in the world, and we should be proud of that. You know, if we goof up every once in a while, but we're still on a mission to make that true, impactful difference and meaningful for people. There was another part in there where you were talking about, you know, people with good experiences and bad experiences and retention. I used to hear in my previous career that if someone had a bad experience, you know, customer service wise with your business, they were likely to go out and share that with their entire community, you know, because they had that bad experience. But on those positive experiences, you were only likely to hear from one out of maybe 10 or more great experiences. You might get feedback on one. So encouraging that feedback, what were your positive and negative experiences? How can we do better? I think that that's something important to put out to your chapter members so that you're leading them in the way that they need you. You're in the space that they need you to be in. I love that. I think that's a great suggestion. I love the new member welcome and orientation, because that's actually feedback that Rory and I get quite a bit from some of our new members. Hey, I reached out to this chapter, but I haven't heard anything back. You know, can you help us get in contact? And of course, you know, when we do the one-on-one, there usually tends to be a response because it has my name on it. And they're like, oh no, Jesse emailed me. But I would love if we could have maybe that planning, even if it's once a quarter. Hey, let's do a new member celebration and really talk about what Women in Aviation International is and what benefits this can have to you. Collaboration and networking and connections, they are invaluable. They're invaluable to who you grow up to be in the journey that you are on. And I love that point.
Yeah. We can't celebrate enough. I really think we can. And we should all do more positive surveys. What is it that keeps us, you know, we'll devote an hour and a half to editing ourselves to make sure our bad experience comments are just the right tone, right?
Right.
Let's share more positive.
Yeah.
And that's the type of modeling we can do within our chapters too.
You know, have interviews that you share with new members from current members or former members if they had to move on or life circumstances. What was the impactful thing of this chapter for that individual? Because you're right, it is an individualized experience.
What's your why? I'm always fascinated with people's whys. I want to know what motivates them. I'd like to know what makes them tick. And also for a volunteer, if they have a skill set and we're not taking advantage of it, it shouldn't be hidden. If there's an area where they could really shine, wouldn't it be awful if we didn't discover that until 3 or 4 years down the road, or until they decided they left because they didn't feel there was a place for their talents? We got to find those things right away.
Well, and we are navigating a world where DE&I is really becoming either some people feel like it's a scary conversation where it really doesn't have to be, but it's recognition. It's recognition of a person as an individual. It's maybe some simple language changes. I read a book not too long ago by Kim Scott that's called Radical Candor, and it pointed out, how she felt walking into a meeting and being addressed by people as, hey guys. That is just language that we have carried with us forever and ever. Until I read that from her, I never thought about walking into a mixed group of people and saying, all right, guys, let's get to work. I'm leaving out 50% of my audience by saying, hey guys. So, me being mindful of my own language and how can I make sure just by those small changes that I'm including every person in the room. Hello team. Hello everyone. Hey y'all, it's
my
just
new favorite phrase when I talk about people is, I want you to meet my favorite human. I just, it really captures it all. I don't want anyone to feel like I want to use language that makes them feel excluded. But when I really think about it, oh my gosh, that's what we are all humans.
Yes, and we're all humans. But we can make those small changes within ourselves, right? And I will tell you, on this conversation, my mother and I had like an hour-long argument because she's like, I'm too old. And I said, Mom, it's one thing. It's one thing just to think about. And if you're able to change that one thing for all of the other people that you're encountering, is it really that hard of a change? I think
we're all having conversations with our parents about this and getting the same response. Well, I'm old. I shouldn't have to learn new stuff. Okay. But that does go back to, some mutual respect for generational differences too. And we certainly want every human to foster inclusion. And then we also, understand that when we're talking about, 75 or 80-year-olds, we can have a really positive influence on them, and we need to let them, be themselves as well.
Right.
It's so difficult being in that parent-child role in this example.
When we're a little bit older and now parents as well, And
who knows what our kids want to tell us, but I'm sure they have a list of, Mom, stop doing this.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure, but also impressive on their generation too, and what they are. For my son, it's so natural for him to say, I was talking to person X, Y, or Z, and then he'll stop for a second. He'll be like, I don't know their pronouns, but they blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's a natural language.
So natural. We have those conversations in our house all the time. And I'm the one who has to remember we're talking about they when they tell me the friend's name, and that I have to learn the pronouns my kids are educating me about on that specific individual. But the fact for them, it's just, this is my friend X, and I just wanted to talk to you about them. It has nothing to do with how they identify or what pronouns they use.
Right.
So that really gives me hope for
I love it.
We're going to, our kids are going to help create this inclusive, belonging world that I know we all want to be a part of. And I get excited about that. And I'll just leave it with, when I sent my first to college last year, another mom who I think very highly of, she said, you often hear about people saying the circle. And I know I'm a big circle person too, widen your circle, widen your circle. What she said was, think of it as a U shape, and then turn around and look at who's not included in the U, and you can make more room for them.
That's so good.
It's not a closed circle. It already has an opening. Maybe you just have to make it a little bit longer, make more room for them, widen it out to a V. But it was really great advice for my son. And she recognized in him his outgoing personality that he probably wasn't going to be one of those, but he was going to have the opportunity to invite someone else to the U. And so great parental advice that I think applies to all of us every day.
That is fantastic. I think that's a fantastic note to conclude at least my portion. We do have We do have some members in the audience. I'm not sure if they have any questions for us, but you are more than welcome. Hi, Samantha. How can we help you? You have a question today?
Hi there. Yeah, thanks so much for hosting this session. I really do appreciate it. I am on my DE&I journey personally, and I know that I'm working to bring some of the DE&I focus areas to our Great Lakes chapter of Women in Aviation. Love the presentation. I do love Radical Candor and some of the other DE&I books that are out there. They are great. If anyone's looking for some more books, my recent reads have been The Loudest Duck and The Inclusive Mindset, and those are really great. I was really delighted that some of the major themes were brought up during the presentation, such as psychological safety and helping us to promote inclusivity within the chapter. But I was just wondering if you could expand on potentially two different areas, of DE&I within women in aviation. What are some historical wins and challenges that the group has experienced as they roll out their DE&I initiatives? And on that same page, what themes are being promoted in the future states, such as expanding our population across different races, sexual orientations, like transgender, and even early and late careers?
That's a great question. Do you want to answer from a Women in Aviation organizational standpoint?
Yeah, I can answer from an organizational standpoint, and I hope that I meet the points here, because you threw a lot at us. But the first, we really promote that we have 23% of our membership that are gentlemen allies and advocates. And we do feel like that percentage is a number that we want to make sure that we are promoting, because, unfortunately, sometimes we still get those maybe snarky or negative comments from the people around us. But those allies and advocates are so important, because they're also going back into their communities and they're talking to, about their granddaughters or daughters or sisters or wives or friends, and really building this up. And I have personally seen from a secondary Girls in Aviation Day that my chapter does, we do it with the International Rocket Competition. And we have so many international young men that are coming up and they're saying, you're absolutely right, there's not enough females in my class. How can I help? Well, here, we've got some information. We can help support those young people as they're going through their journeys. We can help support you as you're going through your journey, and just really promote that. From the international standpoint, how are we expanding there? I am so excited to tell you, we are up to 173 chapters. We have several chapters I've been here for about a year. We have brought on about 20 new chapters in that year. I think if I look back at the numbers, I was counting the other day, we have maybe 6 or 7 of those 20 that are international. So that's a very good percentage on bringing those on. We are trying to expand in areas that we have not had a footprint before. So there are areas in Africa that I'm currently speaking to. I have areas in Southeast Asia that we're currently speaking to. We're also working on the health of the chapters themselves. So we have 173 chapters out there, but how healthy are they, particularly coming out of the last 2 or 3 years, and making sure that they have the tools and resources that they need to be able to have a meaningful impact upon their community and their membership, and that they have the support from the international organization to continue that chapter in a healthy way. So I'm hoping that that's answering some of that. We're an organization that plays well with everyone. We say that all the time. So we are strong supporters of NGPA. We are strong supporters with OBAP and the Latinas in Aviation. And, we partner with them in everything we possibly can, participate in activities, make sure we are the ally and advocate that is standing next to them as they are promoting their motion and mission, because it's their mission that we're supporting, not necessarily ours. We're the cast that's helping lift them up. And so we're as active as we can possibly be with those things that we know that are going on and that we can be active and involved with.
Thanks for the additional context.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Samantha, if we haven't thanked you yet, thank you for being a member of Women in Aviation. Thank you for being a chapter leader, and thank you for your question. All those things are really important.
Yes, and the same goes for Young. She is, I tell her thank you all the time when we get to talk, but she is on a mission there in Oklahoma City, and she's doing phenomenal things there. I mean, she's looking to change and have a meaningful change for her members and for her chapter, but she's also looking, so far ahead at the changes for the entire community. What can Women in Aviation do, Women in Aviation International do? What impact can we have on that entire community in Oklahoma City? And she's fab. So
congratulations, and thank you, Yan, for all that you're doing too. That's amazing.
Thank you, Jo. You have a great, speaker today, and I'm really impressed your PowerPoint. And I will replay to the my chapter meeting, because this is a good information to people, because even myself, when I bring speaker, because we just start up the chapter, we don't have a lot of money on the chapter, and so I always when I bring speaker, and I always putting some unique gift to them from a Chapel Foundation. So I appreciate it. And so today, when I look at the email from group email, I do not know person, but she sent email, she gave donating to money with the PayPal. So I will send her, like the other day, Boeing store had a low-C lunch bag. It's beautiful. So got on sale. So I ordered like 50 bags. so whenever it's something important for me and I very appreciate it, then I can pass out to a low-C lunch bag. It just, I will send you Jesse also too, and Lori, and you give me our address, then I will mail to you guys, because it's wonderful. It's very nice.
You're so sweet. Look
That's the sincere
you.
recognition. And
yeah, that's your recognition. Yes. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Well,
just
thank you,
provide me
everyone.
address. Okay, just provide me address for your chat section, then I copy it, then I will mail tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're so wonderful, Young.
Thank you.
I can get you those separate from the text, just so they're not hanging out there in a chat, if that's something that you want. But we are about 11 minutes past the hour. This was a wonderful, wonderful time to spend with everyone. Again, if you are looking for leadership tips and suggestions, if you are looking for things for your chapter, then definitely go to the Women in Aviation International YouTube channel. There are so many resources there. We'll be doing another webinar, obviously, next month, and that's going to focus on scholarships. We do have some scholarship information and webinars that are already out there, but it's always great to hear a new perspective. We have gone to a wonderful new application platform, getting our technology up to the standards that is expected by our members, and we're really excited about that. But changes in technology always, come with a few challenges. So that will be a great space for everyone to tell us, if they have any challenges, if they love what's going on, we can explain the things, and we can celebrate the largest Women in Aviation International scholarship pool ever. So we are over $1 million. It is absolutely fabulous. One thing I wanted to circle back with, Samantha, I forgot to answer the portion that you asked about for that middle stage career development. We are absolutely focused on that. If you didn't see some of the press releases from this spring, we have a new initiative that's going out. We sent 30 emerging leaders to Harvard University to attend a leadership program, and they were able to go on campus there in Cambridge for several days, and then they did some at-home virtual work as well, and came out with a leadership certificate from Harvard University. So we've definitely recognized that that is an area that we are trying to expand upon and provide additional opportunities in. If you take a look at our scholarship offerings, you will see that there are multiple things that are in there, not just for that beginning career, but actually for career development as well. So really, really excited to be able to offer these new programs out there, because it is such an important place that we need to make sure we're concentrating on as well, so that we're not facing that, career attrition. Once we hit a certain point and we feel like we've hit that wall, how are we giving the additional resources? So
you're developing future leaders every day.
Yeah.
So I admire Women in Aviation, all that you're doing. Great job.
People
Jessie.
that are already in their careers and making sure that they have those opportunities too. So with that, thank you so much for joining us today. I so very appreciate Jo. Absolutely wonderful to see you as always. You always bring a smile to my face. We are so grateful that you took the time with us today, and I am going to stop recording now.
Okay, Jo.